Nighttime workers of Reddit, what's the freakiest stuff you've seen on the job? I'm a nurse, so I see a lot of freaky stuff working days at the hospital as well, but I used to work nights. There's a common phenomenon amongst dementia patients called sundowning. A dementia patient can be sweet and innocent all day, but once night falls they do a complete 180 and become agitated and often hostile. Also, more patients die on night shift for some reason. They always seem to want to crash around 3 AM. My great-grandfather had sundowners. During the day he was perfectly lucid, remembered who people were, even called my grandmother all the time. When the sun went down he thought he was living in a hotel in Boise in 1939. My greatest fear is that I'm not actually doing this right now. I'm reliving 2020 from a rest home somewhere in 2050. Dementia is such a terrible illness. So sad. Well, now that's a fear I didn't know I had. Imagine how much it would suck to have to go through 2020 again. My greatest fear is that I'm not actually doing this right now. I'm reliving 2020 from a rest home somewhere in 2050. So that's gonna stick with me for all eternity. Worked third shift stocking shelves in a grocery store. Every couple of nights, a sweet little old lady would come in to buy vanilla extract to make sugar cookies for her grandkids and the neighbors. A few weeks go by and I'm outside on a smoke break. I see our sweet grandma in her car, chugging vanilla extract. She was drinking it to get drunk and hide her alcoholism from her family. Years after that, I worked in a bar as a karaoke host. There was a hotel next door to the bar where some of the less fortunate people in town stayed. One of the hotel guests was a regular in the bar. This dude, his GF and I did a shot to celebrate him finding a good job and getting accepted to a trailer park. He goes next door to get a snack and says he'll be right back. 30 minutes later we see flashing lights outside. He got a snack of heroin, passed out in the parking lot next to his car, and had his head run over by another guest pulling into the adjacent parking spot. It bore a similarity to a watermelon at a Gallagher show. Post finale. I'll never unsee that. As I was reading the vanilla comment I thought she's yep drinking it. Then, you mentioned making cookies for grandkids and neighbors, and I felt bad for being jaded and automatically assuming the worst. Then, I realized why I'm the way I am. Oh my god. I'm sorry you had to see that. I'm sorry for him and his loved ones. The older we get, the more we see and collect so many sad, awful things. This is true, but we also collect so many wonderful moments. In the sum of things, there's more good than bad for most people. Train inspector here, walking a train in the middle of the night, pitch black, come up to a freight car that had 4 hobos sitting in it, just staring at me. Dudes never said a word, just watched me. I eased by them and kept going, but couldn't get past the feeling of them behind me for a good while. I knew a guy that was a hobo back in the day. He said it's gotten too dangerous now. Too many drugs and too many people willing to rob or stab you. Back in the day it was a community where everyone helped each other. There were places that were known to allow people to sleep. There was some rich lady that had a guest house where you could go. He even got to be in National Geographic. There was an episode called Love Them Trains, something like that. There is even a hobo convention, but I can't remember where they hold it. Pretty sure it's held daily at the underpass down the road from my place. Are supposed to report them being in the train car, or just let it go, because that's not part of your job description. The railroad I worked with didn't let guys inspect alone for this reason, because they tend to be violent if you catch them. They always said to just let them be if you see them. Some guys carried handguns on them at work because bums have attacked and beat the shit out of workers. I can imagine it'd be creepy at night. Me personally, and as regards to other replies to my original comment, would not really bother them. Unless it was specifically told to me by someone higher in my company I'd leave the be. But I don't work anything similar to the situation, so I have no room to speak. It's just interesting knowing others' perspective that have been there. I used to work night shift at a hospital, and couriers would be coming and going at all times of the night. One night a courier was approached by a homeless man demanding money, but the homeless guy just started stabbing the courier before he could even respond. The courier tried to offer his wallet, which just so happened to contain around $400, and the attacker didn't even take it. The courier was stabbed around 30 times in his upper chest, neck, arms, and hands. He survived and is well, but it just goes to show how unpredictable strangers can be. They probably appreciated you being an easy bull lol. I worked at the ArcLight, Bauji movie theater, and I'm a night person, so I usually got the last shifts, which meant I had to clear out every theater, and then make sure all the trash bags hidden in the back hallway were clear, and clean for the morning crew. The only freaky experience I had was seeing/hearing someone running throughout the hall, laughing and just being fucking weird. I thought it was a patron who was drunk, but it lasted for a good half hour, even though I had already called security to come escort them out. The security guards also heard the constant running footsteps, and we only ever caught glimpses of the back of the person. Scared the shit out of us. Next day, I pull another night shift and see one of the guards who was on duty. He said they never found the guy and eventually the footsteps and laughing stopped. Still don't know what to make of it, but that was the only time anything like that ever happened. I used to work nights in a hospital setting. At one point, I was taking the city bus to work. There was a lady who got off the bus and left her baby. The bus driver pulled the bus over and tried to find her, but it was nighttime and he couldn't find her. He called the police. Before the police got there, the woman came running back, realizing that she had forgotten something. My boss did not believe me when I told her why I was late. Sleep deprivation is a real shitty thing. The baby was sound asleep though. Close bracket. JK, you're totally right lol. It's horrific. I don't remember most of 2015, after having my baby, who did not sleep through the night until he was 2. I mean, I look back at photos and think yeah, I kinda vaguely remember that. Pretty sure it contributed to my PND. I had my first baby in May. Luckily she is a great sleeper, but had a tongue tie, and therefore I ended up with milk supply issues. So we needed to wake her every 2 hours for feedings, and then I would have to pump for 20 minutes afterwards. The sheer exhaustion and misery I felt that whole time, ooh boy. It's honestly a blur. But one night she slept 7 hours straight, and I was a completely different person that following day. I don't doubt for 1 second that postpartum depression has at least something to do with sleep deprivation. Every time I see someone on the internet talk about having kids, I want kids even less every time. I'm living this now. My 19-month-old son sleeps in 2-hour bursts still, so we barely sleep. And having to try and work and deal with other illnesses, my body just feels like a sack of moldy onions. Have you had him checked for acid reflux and subsequently allergies or other causes? My sister didn't sleep properly through the night until she was like 3 because she had acid reflux, and because it was chronic, it caused ulcers in her esophagus too, which made it worse. Could be nothing, could be something else entirely, but it can't hurt to have the kid checked out if it could help all of you sleep peacefully, right? Worked as a office cleaner before COVID, 11 to 7 am as a one-man team. One stormy ass night, I was on the phone while working when my connection started to fade in and out. All of a sudden there is just a deafeningly loud shriek coming out my phone and the power goes out. Even the emergency lights. I remember looking out the window of the 10th and seeing the whole industrial park black. Nights make everything creepy. Man, that reminds me, one time middle of the night, I'm outside on a smoke break and I just see this huge flash of light a little bits away, preceded by the entire section of town our plant is in complete and utter darkness. Turns out a construction crew somehow blew a bunch of transformers. Kinda annoying when a construction crew casually slaughters alien robot giants near your town, eh? Not specific to working night shift, but dead people. I work in a nursing home and unfortunately people dying is the name of the game. Sometimes you see people declining, so you know they are on their way out, and you do 15-minute checks on them and catch it fairly quickly. Other times people seem fine, and they just go and you don't find them for an hour or so between doing rounds. I once spent a long time trying to convince a resident that the angel of death wasn't waiting for him. I sat with him for a while. We shared a hot cocoa. I checked and double checked his vitals, did all of his cares, held his hand, and talked to him about life until he felt better. He was smiling and calm again when I left his room. I finally left his room to wrap up charting and to check in with the nurse. He was gone. When I checked in about 30 minutes later, that one hit pretty hard, but I almost guarantee you being there and comforting him made the process 1000% easier on him. He was in skilled nursing care, but I honestly wasn't expecting it at that moment. It broke my heart a little. I'd really enjoyed taking care of him. He was a delightful man. I'm sure he really enjoyed your company and thought you were a delightful human being as well. Thanks for watching. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell for more videos. Also like the video if you enjoy it.